let's take a look at how you can install a Rust on Windows 10. So if you wish to use Rust and develop the code for Rust, then make sure that you have two things installed before you go for Rust installation. First being Windows 10 SDK. Now, depending on when you're seeing this, the version for Windows 10 SDK varies every 6 months. So that build number will be listed on that page. Okay, so here Windows 10 SDK page shows 10.0.1904. So this is the build that you need to install right now if you're watching this. And second being Microsoft C++ build tools. So you need both build tools and SDK before you go for Rust installation. Okay, so coming back to Rust, here you can see install option. Click on that. That should take you to options for downloading Rust up in it, okay, which I'm going to ignore. There is also a method for installing using curl, but it is for Linux, which you can use inside WSL. But if you are planning to install on Windows, go for other installation methods option. Okay, that should take you to a page where you have to find standalone installer. Now here you can see other ways to install. Here you see standalone installers. These are the installations that you can check for both Windows, Linux and Mac. Now here you see x86 64 PC Windows MSVC. So if you're going with this Windows 10 SDK and Microsoft C++ build tools, then you can go for this MSVC option. Click on MSI button, so that should download installer. And first column is for stable release, so you should be clicking here. After doing that, it should download installer. Okay, now here in the installer, go for advanced so that you can check for installation directory. So let's see, here you can change the name to Rust and also change the directory. So I'm going to remove program files and only going to keep C Rust. Okay, click next. Now if you want, you can keep Rust language server or keep it unchecked. Now then click on install. Okay, it may ask you for permission. If it asks you, click on OK and then proceed, so that it can start the installation. Okay, as you can see, it is finishing the copying of files. Then it will finish with component registration, and then it will come up with wizard page that says installation is finished. Now that we have, okay, so we reached the page for completion. Let's check with command prompt whether we install it or not. So let's go to the directory where we can see Rust C /version, and here you see Rust C 1.441. If you can see this version, that means you have managed to install Rust on Windows 10. So let's take a look at how you can create your first Hello World program in Rust. So if you have not installed Rust, I suggest going through Windows 10 SDK installation along with Microsoft C++ build tools installation on Windows, so that you can use Rust compiler without any issues. Okay, so completing that part, let's open text editor such as Sublime Text, or let's say Visual Studio Code. Now here I'm creating a new file, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to write a new function. So fn is the keyword for function, then main, and inside this curly bracket I'm going to simply type in println, then exclamation mark, and here I'm going to type in, let's say, DevNami and Rust. Okay, now at the end make sure to end this statement with semicolon and save this. Now here let's save this file with name like sample.rs. Okay, now that your program is saved, open command prompt, and here as you can see I have already navigated to this directory within command prompt. Now in order to check whether you have Rust installed, simply type in rust c /version. Now if Rust is not installed, then you may have to stop here and go through the installation process. Okay, and if the Rust is installed, it should return with a Rust version. Okay, now here what we will do is we will type in a rust c, then sample.rs. Now hit enter. Now if it compiles properly, it will return with a blank prompt, otherwise it will return with error. So wait for it to complete, and then in order to run this example, what we all have to do, simply use the name of the file and not the extension. So here simply type in sample and hit enter, and it should output this println statements content. Okay, if you can see this, that means you have managed to run Hello World program in Rust on your Windows. Okay, so let's take a look at how you can use strings in Rust. And for that, first make sure that you have Rust installed. Simply type in rust c, then space /version. Okay, if you can see the version here, that means you have Rust compiler installed and working. Now what you can do is open your text editor, make sure to create one file and edit it with .rs file extension. Now inside this file I'm going to first type in function main. Okay, now in order to create string, we have two methods. One where we simply, let's say, I create C string and add my string in it. Okay, that's one method. And another method where we use reference to the string using AND operator, where we can say it is using literal symbol. Okay, and we can print this string by using println, then exclamation mark, and within bracket what we can do, string value, right? And outside the code you can go with cstr. Okay, that's one way we can print our string out. So let's say if I open command prompt and then type in rust c and then sample.rs, if there are any errors, it should point it in the command prompt. Otherwise it will come up with empty prompt. Then we just have to type in the name of the file as sample, and here you see it returns with the string value, right? So what we'll do is we will try one more method. In this we basically create string objects, so we will use string, then we will call for new, right? And here we created cstr as an object and we use println. So let's say if I want to calculate the length, then we basically go for cstr dot len method. Make sure to end this with semicolon at the end, and let's open command prompt and let's type in rustc sample.rs. Here we have to check what went wrong. And as you can see, I missed one more colon here. That's why the error was there. So you get the idea how to create string as well as how to create string object. Okay, so let's take a look at how you can use constant in Rust, and we'll take a look at how to name the constant and how to use them, along with what happens if we try to revalue the existing constant. Okay, so let's first start by checking if we have Rust or not. Type in rustc space /version. That should give us the Rust version. Next thing to do would be open text editor and check the file. Okay, here I have sample.rs. You can name your file anything you want, just make sure that you end with .rs file extension. Now let's create the main function, and here let's first create a constant keyword, and let's see if I want to create a pi value, and it's going to be pi f32, so float 32 value. So 3.14 is the value I wish to go with, and then let's print this value, and let's say pi is, and then curly bracket, and outside let's add that value pi. So if we try to print this, then rustc sample.rs, okay, then it should compile fine and it should output our 3.14 value, hopefully. Okay, as you can see, it is 3.14. Now what if I try to modify this by saying pi equals to 3.56? Right, so we are basically modifying the value of already declared existing constant value, which is pi. Okay, and if you try to print this out, it should flag us an error. So type in rustc sample.rs, and here you can see I cannot assign to this expression because constant means once its value is declared, I cannot reassign that value in next statement, because for global value that constant value remains the same. So you get the idea how to use constant in Rust. Okay, so let's take a look at how you can use string concatenation in Rust. So what I'm going to do is first make sure to check whether we have Rust installed. Type in rustc space /version, and after that we will get the version of the Rust. And next thing would be to open text editor such as Visual Studio Code or Sublime Text. Next thing, we are opening text editor such as Sublime Text or Visual Studio Code. Now here let's type in main function. Inside main function we are going to type in, let's say, string1. Let's see our name here, and we have to use dot then toString method to convert this to string, and also add one more string. Okay, and here we also convert this into toString. Okay, now if I want to concatenate this, what I can do is create another string, name this s3, then add s1, and also add reference to s2. That should concatenate these two strings, and we can then output string string concat, right? And we can output the value simply by typing in S3. Okay, now what we can do is we can simply open command prompt, C, and then sample.rs. Okay, it should come with blank prompt, and then we can simply call for sample.exe by typing in name of that exe. Now here you see string is concatenated like this. Okay, and what if you want some space in between? You can add so. Let's see if that works. As you can see, I added a bit space in here, and that will be taken while concatenation as well. So you get the idea how to do string concatenation in Rust. So let's take a look at different data types in Rust. So what we'll do is open command prompt, type in C, then space /version. If you get the version, then you have Rust compiler installed on your system. Next thing, we open text editors such as Visual Studio Code or Sublime Text. Okay, here you can see I have sample.rs file, and here I'm going to write in my main function. Now let's start with simple string. So we will type in cstr equals to any string value that you can assign. Okay, and we can also immediately get it printed. So println string value. Okay, make sure to use this bracket. Okay, as it points out, we have to use our variable after that. So this is where it indicates we have to reference our variable. So that's why we make sure to include these two brackets every time we wish to output any particular variable. Next thing, we use float. So let's say flt equals to, let's say 5.6, and we can output that as well. So float value. Okay, flt, right? Then we have one more value. Let's say if I want to use boolean value, so bld equals to true. And we can use it here, boolean value. So we'll use bld here. Similarly, we can also use integer value. So let's say varin equals to, let's say, value of 10. Okay, so we'll use println integer value, and after that we will simply call varin. So we have completed string value, float value, boolean value, and we can also use special characters. So sorry, let's go here, SPCAR, special characters for me. Let's go with currently @ symbol or hash if you want. Let's go with @ symbol. So now let's print that as well. Hopefully all of this does not come on same line. Char value, make sure to use bracket, then quote, and outside that spchar. Okay, right? Now what we can do is we can open our command prompt and type in rustc, then sample.rs. okay, if it returns with blank prompt, that means it managed to compile just fine. So all the code that we have written so far has compiled, and we can run that by typing in name of the file without extension. And here you see our string value exactly as we wanted, then float value, then boolean value, then integer value, as well as special character value. So you get the idea how to use different data types in Rust and how to output them using println function. Okay, so let's take a look at how you can write a function in Rust language. So what we'll do is we'll open command prompt, and here let's navigate to the directory where I have created a file for us to execute. Okay, so first thing, let's check out whether we have Rust installed. So rustc space / version. Okay, that should show us the Rust compiler version. Okay, and after that what we'll do is we'll open text editor such as Sublime Text or Visual Studio Code. Now here you can see I have sample.rs file, where first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to write one function. Let's name this demo, and what I want to do is in this function I will simply output some text. So let's say text like okay, now we will write our main function, and here we will call our function. Okay, so make sure that you are using just name of the function and not fn demo. Okay, so once you call that, simply open command prompt and here type in rustc, then sample.rs. Okay, if everything goes correct, it should return with blank prompt, and then we will simply type in the name of this file, which is sample and not the extension, so that it should run with executable, and it outputs the statement which I passed from demo function. Okay, so you get the idea how to create a function in Rust and how to call that function from main function. Okay, so let's take a look at how you can write for loop for Rust language. And first thing that we are going to do is open command prompt and check whether we have Rust installed or not. So type in rustc space then / version. Okay, it should show you the current version installed, and then we can go to the project. Okay, so I have sample.rs in Sublime Text. You can have it in Visual Studio Code if that's your preference. So first thing, we will write our main function. So start with fn for keyword for function space main, then bracket, then inside curly bracket we type in for keyword, then I as variable in, let's say I want to count from 1 to 11, so it will start from 1 up to 11, and then it should print, let's say, that particular number. So we will output I, right, and then we open command prompt and then type in rustc sample.rs. Okay, once properly compiled, it should return with blank prompt, and then we will just run the file which is executable with same name as our file. So sample, and it should show you number counting from 1 to 10, and I added the colon here. You can remove that to get the output without colon. So you get the idea how to write for loop that counts the number from, say, 1 to 10. Similarly, you can also output items in an array. So to do that, what we'll do is we will first create the array. So let's say check items is my array, and we will add items in it. So 1, 2, then 3, then 4. Okay, now what we'll do is in for loop we will use one variable named a for items in check items dot iteration, and within that we will simply output, we will output our item A. Okay, save your file and execute. Okay, so C sample.rs. Okay, now it compiles properly. Let's see if it outputs all our items. So sample, and here you can see for loop has returned our items from arrays 1, 2, 3 and 4. So you get the idea how to use for loop. Now how to use for loop for extracting elements from array. Okay, so let's take a look at how you can write while loop in Rust language. So what we'll do is we'll open command prompt, type in rust c space / version. Okay, if you can get the version, that means you have Rust installed. Now let's create one file. Let's name this sample.rs and open it in any text editor of your choice. Let's see, like Sublime Text or Visual Studio Code. In my case, I'm using Sublime Text. So let's start by creating main function. So fn main inside curly bracket. First thing we will do is we will create a mutable variable named I. Give it a value of 10, or let's start from 0 to 10. So we will start with value of 0. Okay, now save this. Now what we'll do is we'll write keyword while our value of I is less than or equal to 10. We want to execute this loop. Now here what we'll do is type in println, then output the current value, which is I. Then we will increment value of I equals to I plus 1. Okay, now what we will do is we'll simply go ahead and open command prompt, type in rust c sample.rs and then type in sample, and here you see it starts from 0 all the way to value of 10. So you get the idea how to execute while loop in Rust. Okay, so let's take a look at how you can use if-else condition in Rust language. So first thing, make sure that you have Rust installed. Type in rust c space / version. That should show you have active Rust installation. Now what you can do is open text editors such as Visual Studio Code or Sublime Text. Create one file. Let's name this sample.rs. Now here I'm going to first create our main function. Now let's have two values, a being 2 and b being 4. Now let's have a condition that if a is greater than b, Then let's print something like A is big, and in else condition we have B is big. Okay, simple program here. So what we will do is we will open command prompt, and here we will type in rustc space then sample.rs. If everything is correct, it should return with a blank prompt. Now we can simply type in name of our file, as that should execute the executable file. And here we can see, based on our program, output is B is big. So you get the idea how to use if and else condition and get the output as per your condition. Okay, so let's take a look at how you can use vectors in Rust language. So basically vectors are the type where you store values of same data type. Okay, so we will see that in action. Before that, we will open command prompt, check if we have Rust installed. As you can see, it returns with version. That means Rust is installed. Now let's open Sublime Text. Let's create one sample.rs file. Now here, let's start with main function. Now what we're going to do is we're going to write let v equals to vector, and within square bracket we will have some values, right? Okay, now in println we will output individual values, like say first value, v0. Okay, similarly you can also use for loop for a in v dot iter and println, let's say value, or simply you can output a. Okay, either one of that should work, so we will run both of them. So you get the idea how to go with first value and then iterate as well. So open command prompt, type in rustc sample.rs, and now here it shows that we have to remove one comma. Now let's see what we need next. Okay, this is also missing, and one more error. Okay, that's it. So let's run again, and it returns with empty prompt, so we can run the code. And here you see first value is 2 and rest of the other values output through for loop. So you get the idea how to create vector and also output its value one at a time or using for loop. Okay, so let's take a look at how you can write structures in Rust. So first thing, make sure that you have Rust compiler installed. Type in rustc then /version. Okay, if you have Rust installed, you can write the code explained here. So what you can do is open text editors such as Visual Studio Code or Sublime Text. Make sure to create one sample.rs file. Now here, in order to create a structure, we will use keyword struct. Okay, and here let's see if I type in name uinfo, where I want to have one username which is going to be a string. okay, and also one user age, which is going to be integer 64-bit. Okay, and as you can see, if you are coming from language such as C and C++, you may notice that structures are similar here as well. Now we have to define them in our main function. So we create user, and then we call our structure uinfo, and inside there we are going to specify the values. So let's say string, and we point in string from, right? And here what we will do is we will also add this comma and not semicolon. So for user age, we directly specify the number, right? Now we will output this, okay, and before that use semicolon to end that user line. So println, and here let's see, if I want to first output name and age, okay, and here we will use user dot user underscore name, and then user dot user underscore age, right? And this statement with semicolon, and we are declaring values from our structure. Okay, one thing to note here is that you need to make sure that your struct is not uppercase S but lowercase s. Okay, so we will go to command prompt and then type in rustc sample.rs. If it returns with blank prompt, then it has managed to compile, and we can just directly use the file name. Okay, so type in file name, and here you see it fetches the username and age and takes the value from our user variable, that is instance of our structure uinfo. Okay, so you get the idea how to write a structure and how to add or fetch the structural details and print them out. Okay, so let's take a look at some of the vector functions in Rust. So first, make sure that you have Rust installed. Type in rustc space /version. If you have Rust installed, it should show you the version. Now next thing, open text editor such as Visual Studio Code or Sublime Text, and here you can see sample.rs file I have created. And now let's create main function. Now here, first thing we are going to do is we are going to create a mutable vector v by calling vector keyword vec, and then we will call for new. Okay, this should create a new vector which is mutable, so we will push value in it starting from 2. Let's see, and let me copy this so as to save the time. Okay, and just change the values, say 4, then 6, then 8. Okay, so 2, 4, 6, 8. So what this push will do is it will add these 4 values into our vector v. Okay, and if you wish to output all these values, what you will do is use println, and let's see, curly brackets, then colon, and then question mark, and outside the quotes simply type in v. or whatever name your vector has, and semicolon. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll open command prompt and test whether this works. So rust c space sample.rs. Okay, and it should output 2468 as our set of values. Okay, so first let's wait for it to compile, and now let me execute the file. Here you can see 2468. And what if I want to calculate the length? Okay, so in next line what I will do is I will simply use println and then length of vector, okay, then curly bracket, and here outside the quote we will type in v dot length method. Okay, similarly we can also check few other functions like remove as well, but before that we will just see if it can output specific values. So println, and let's say value for v2. Okay, so second value in the vector should be 6, right? So make sure that you have exclamation mark in println, otherwise it will flag an error. Okay, so run this again, and then here you can see first it outputs your vector, then length of vector is 4, which is true, and then the second value starting from 0th index 0 1 2 should be 6, which it is. Okay, so apart from that we can also take a look at how to remove something. So we'll use v dot remove, and we remove the third value, which is going to be 8, right? And then we will output entire vector again. So we'll just output that. Okay, so in first run it should show all these 4 values, then length of vector, and then also this second value from 0th index, and then after removing this third value it should output that vector with removed value, right? Save this. Now let's run this again. Okay, here you can see our value 8 is now removed after using remove function. So you get the idea how to use various functions for manipulating vector. Okay, so let's take a look at how you can use HashMap and its functions in Rust. So first thing that you can do is open command prompt, type in rust c, then / version. Okay, if you check Rust installation, we can move ahead with text editors such as Sublime Text or Visual Studio Code, and here I have created one sample.rs file. Now this is one I'm going to use for compiling our HashMap code. So first thing, make sure to create main function, and before you use HashMap, what you can do is use standard collections, and from that call for HashMap. Notice that I am using H uppercase and M uppercase. Okay, now let's see if I create variable fruit, but I want to keep on adding the value in this fruit, which is going to be my HashMap. So what we'll do is I will type in HashMap new. Okay, Now we will make use of function named insert. So type in fruit dot insert. So this insert will take whatever value you put in. In case of HashMap, you will notice that it is basically a collection of key value pairs. So you have to add one key. So let's say a fruit and its color as value. Okay, so we will just copy this like 4 times for different fruits. Let's see, and keep on changing its color as well. Let's see, mango, it's partly saffron and orange, so let's go with saffron color. And let's add watermelon and give it a green. Okay, so outside color green, right? So this is the insert function. Now if you want to check all the items from your hash map, what you will do is you will use println, and then you basically use bracket, inside which use colon and question mark. Outside quote you will simply write fruit, which will point this fruit here, which contains all these 4 key value pairs. Now to check this, what we can do is simply type in rustc sample.rs. If everything is correct, it should return with blank prompt. And here what we can do is type in name of the file, and we get our hash map. Now what we can do is we can also find out length of this hash map. So println length of fruit, and then we can simply go ahead and type in fruit dot len method, right? And we can compile this again, and then and here you can see length of fruit hash map is 4. Now one more thing that we can do is we can check whether this particular hash map has a key value pair. So let's say if I want to check for mango, what we will do is we will type in if fruit contains underscore key, and we use and symbol and type in mango, right? And if it exists, simply println found, otherwise it will just exit out of it. There is no else we have used here, so let's check that. So basically we will run from all over again, and here you see it will return found because we already have that key value pair. So coming out of that, let me scroll down, and one more thing that we can do is we can also iterate through all of these values using for loop. Okay, so for that what we can do is for and then key and value in fruit dot iter. This method once called, we can print out all the key value pairs. So key and value. So basically we will simply use key val here separately, right, one at a time, and that should also work. So let's compile again, and then type in sample, and here you can see one at a time it will output. Okay, now finally one more code, which is going to be removal of one key value pair. So for that we type in fruit dot remove, and here we can specify it using and symbol, and let's say if I want to remove watermelon, and then println, and here simply type in fruit, right? And let's compile again. And here you see now the value for watermelon is removed from our fruit. So you get the idea how to make use of HashMap functions to work with your HashMap collection. Okay, so let's take a look at HashSet collection functions in Rust language. So what we'll do is we will open command prompt and check if we have Rust installed, and if you verify Rust compiler, you are good to go. Now what we can do is open text editors such as Sublime Text or Visual Studio Code, and what you can do is create one file. Let's name this sample.rs. Okay, so I have created this sample.rs file, inside which I'm going to type in my main function. Before that we have to also use standard, then collections, then HashSet. Okay, now within main function what we can do is we can type in, let's say, a HashSet name games. Considering this is going to be a mutable, so we will use mute keyword, right? Now we will call for HashSet, then 2 colons, and then new, right? After that we will make use of function named insert, so games.insert, and it should contain our games. So let's start from 1. Let me copy this and I can avoid few keystrokes, right? So second game, let's see, tennis, soccer, and then let's go with swimming, right? So we have like 4 values in HashSet, and if you want we can print all of them by typing in colon question mark and then name of our HashSet, right? Okay, now open command prompt, and here what we can do, type in rustc, then name of our file. Okay, so here we have to make use of double colon, right? Now let's execute again, right? If it works, then type in name of your file and it should output your HashSet. Okay, all those 4 values. Now we can also find out length by typing in println, then let's say length of HashSet. Make sure it points to your len method. Okay, now we can run this again. And here you see length of HashSet 4. Similarly, we can also use iteration option to output the value from our HashSet one after another. So we make use of for loop for game in games.iter, right? And then we output one at a time. So simply use bracket and then game, right? That should output one at a time. Sorry, it should be at the end of statement. Now if we compile this, let me clear this and run this. Here you can see it should output one after another like this. Okay, next we can also take a look at contains function. So for that, if games.contains and we want to check, let's say tennis value, let's see println found the value, right? Now what we can do is we will simply open command prompt and execute everything all over again. And here you see it found the value, right? Finally, one more method is we can also remove something out of HashSet. So games.remove, then point out to particular value. Before that you have to use and symbol, right? And point to that value which you want to remove, and then println entire HashSet, right? So for that you make use of colon and question mark, and then use comma and then games, right? Then what you can do is open command prompt and compile your file, then just run your executable, and here you see fourth value is now removed. As you can see, I already printed out previous results for the sake of it without removing them, so this may look a bit cluttered, but you get the idea that at the end fourth value from HashSet is removed and only 3 are in the output. So we basically looked at how to print the values, check the length, how to do iteration of those items, how to check whether a particular value in HashSet exists, and finally we looked at how to remove a particular value from HashSet. Okay, so let's take a look at how you can use arrays in Rust-Lang. So first thing to do, open command prompt, then type in rustc space /version. Okay, now that we have Rust installed, we can open text editors such as Sublime Text or Visual Studio Code. Now here I have created sample.rs and I'm going to create main function. Now inside main function, what we are going to do is we are going to create an array. Let's name it ARR, and we have to specify our data type currently, which is going to be integer, contains 4 values. Okay, so this is one method to create integer array. Okay, now we can also print out this by simply typing in array and then within curly bracket colon question mark and then outside our array. Now before we compile, make sure that it is semicolon and not comma. Okay, next thing would be to simply go ahead and open your command prompt, type in rustc then sample.rs. Now execute, and you'll find your array value is in output. Okay, this is one way by defining your data type with that array. Another one is without having to do that, you can directly list your array items. So let's say I make sure to add these values, and if I just output this, okay, so let's compile it again, and here you can see in one method we specifically mention it being integer array, in second we didn't mention anything, and still we managed to create an array. So these are two methods with which we create an array. Apart from that, we can also calculate the length of array by typing in, let's say, println length of array. Okay, then outside we use, let's say, array2 length. So length of array2, so we have 5 values. Let's see if it returns with that. And here you see length of array 5. So for that second array it contains 5 values. So after that there is one more thing, is iteration of these arrays. So for that we will, let's say, use for loop for value in array2 dot iter function, and let's println and output those value one after another. Okay, you don't even have to write these value, but I'm going to output that for sake of simplicity. Okay, now what we can do is we can simply comment out the earlier part and simply use only one output, right? So, and here you see it is iterating from 20, 40 to all the way to 100. So you get the idea how to create arrays using multiple methods, also check length of array, and also how to iterate through values. Okay, so let's take a look at one of the interesting thing about HashSet in Rust is that HashSet collection doesn't allow duplicates. So what happens if we try to insert duplicate values? So we'll take a look at that. So open your text editor, create one sample.rs file, and first thing use standard, then collections, and then HashSet. Okay, now what we will do is we will create our main function, and inside that we will create mutable value, let's say games HashSet. So HashSet, and we create new for our games. So if we keep on inserting values such as, let's say, cricket, so let me just paste it here, and let's go with 2 unique values, okay, and 1 duplicate value. So after this first value is being registered, last value being duplicate, it should flag an error. So let's see if we try to output all these values, what happens is, let's find out. Okay, so open command prompt and then type in rustc sample.rs. Okay, So if it returns with blank prompt, we can execute. And here you see the duplicate value is completely ignored. So we get soccer, cricket, and tennis, right? So it didn't flag any error, but it completely ignored that value. Okay, so let's take a look at how you can get user input in Rust. So first thing, we make sure to install our Rust compiler and we check the version with Rust C / version. And once you confirm that, what you can do is open your text editor such as Sublime Text, and you can see sample.rs file here. And what you can do is you can simply create your main function. Okay, and here you can see we make use of standard IO collection. Okay, now here what we can do is we can first take the user input, right? And for that we make use of mutable name variable that basically will take the string and create new instance of that. Now here what we'll do, call for IO standard input, and then we call for read underscore line, where we pass on our mutable name, right? And we expect it to catch the error with error reading. Okay, also we will add one blank line, and in next line we will output hey, and then we will add some sort of comma or so, and then we call for name, right? So what we are doing here is we are using standard IO to read a line from command prompt and then returning back to our prompt. So let's take a look at that. We will run rust c sample.rs. Okay, if it returns with blank prompt, then we can say it compiled fine. Then we type in name of the file, and here I'm going to use name, and here you see it returned back with the message. So you get the idea how to get user input in a Rust language. Okay, so let's take a look at how to create and write to file in Rust. So first thing to do would be open command prompt, make sure that you have Rust installed. So we will check the Rust version. Here you can see Rust installed and 1.44 version. Next thing, open text editor such as Sublime Text or Visual Studio Code, and here I have created one file named sample.rs. Now first thing we are going to do is we are going to use package from standard IO collection named write. Okay, then we will make use of function main. Right, now here we will create a mutable file and make sure to call for standard fs, then file, then create, and we call for, let's say, data.txt, then dot expect failed. Okay, next thing we are going to make use of file dot write underscore all, and we are going to check our string as bytes. Okay, so I'm going to put on some small content in that file. Okay, then we are also catching the error, so with expect failed. Okay, so we are catching error with the dot expect function. Next thing, we will typing in some generic message, data write on file. Okay, so if everything goes well, we'll have one file named data.txt. Okay, so we will take a look at that file. Okay, we will simply open command prompt, and here type in rustc, the name of the file .rs. Compile that. All we have to do is type in sample. Okay, and here it says data write on file. Okay, so few things to watch out is you may get error at okay, few errors you may find is in capital or say uppercase W, and this file F, which needs to be uppercase. Okay, once these two errors are removed, you will see your file compiles properly. Also, you'll find your data.txt in the folder, and you will have this text inside that file as well. Okay, so you get the idea how to write to a file using Rust language. Okay, so let's take a look at how you can read text file in Rust language. So I have one file here, sample.rs, which I created in Sublime Text, and in the same folder I also have this data.txt, which contains this text. So we are going to write this text file with let's say one more word here, and then we will save this. And now what we will do is we will read this file. Now what we need is we will need standard IO read collection. Now in main function, what we will do is we will let mutable file to read standard fs file, and then open our data.txt. We'll take a look at if this open has uppercase O or not. Then we will also have one more mutable content variable, which should hold our string value. Okay, now what we'll do is we will simply use file read underscore to string, and then we will read mutable content, and then use dot unwrap. Okay, and finally we will just print out the content. Right, so output this. Okay, so let's open command prompt. Hopefully everything is correct. We can go ahead and type in rustc space sample.rs. Now we will type in sample, and then it should output the content of file. Okay, just make sure that you remove the colon and question mark within println that we typed, and it should compile without any errors. So you get the idea how to read text file in Rust language. Okay, so let's take a look at how you can append data to file in Rust language. So I have created one project in Rust where I have this sample.rs file, and I created one data.txt that contains this content. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to append few words here using code. So what we have to do is make sure that you have Rust installed. Type in rustc space -- version. Okay, now here you can see the version of Rust. Now we can continue the code. First thing is to go for standard fs and then open options. Also use standard IO and write. Okay, these two packages we need. Okay, then next thing is we create mutable file which calls for open options, then go for new, then we append and we set it to true, then we go for open and our file name here is data.txt. Okay, and then we also use expect method that just says error occurred. Okay, now what we are going to do is we are going to use file, then write underscore all, and here let's say I want to add update second is to be appended with adds bytes. Okay, then we also use expect and we here add error occurred. Okay, finally we will println file append complete. Okay, if everything goes correctly, then we will have our file appended. Okay, so open command prompt and type in rust c sample.rs. Now we will type in sample and here you see file append completed. Now to check that I have to open the file and here you see it will add append second immediately after the current content. So if you want you can even add some space before this, otherwise it will often append as is with the existing sentence. So add some space. Okay, that being said, so this is how you append data to file in Rustlang. Okay, so let's take a look at how you can delete the file in Rust. So what you can do is, let's open the project that I created in Rust, and here you can see I have one data.txt file and I wish to delete this file. So what I will do is I will make sure that I have Rust installed. So type in rust c --version, and if Rust is installed we can write the further code to delete this file. So type in use standard fs package, and in main function what we will do is we will write in fs remove underscore file. Then we have to give the path to that file, considering this is already in the same folder, so I will not write full path, instead just name the file. And in expect method what I will do is I will just say error occurred. Right, next thing we will just use println and we will mention file deleted. Now open command prompt, and here what we will do is we will type in rust c sample.rs. Now we will type in sample, and here you see file deleted. Also, if you check your project folder, then you'll notice that that file data.txt is now removed. Okay, so you get the idea how to delete a file using Rust. Okay, so let's take a look at panic macro in Rust. So basically, panic macro allows your program to terminate and give the feedback to the user of that program. So basically what we'll do is we will open our project, and I have this sample.rs where I'm going to try out panic macro. So okay, so what we'll do is we will have value of I equals to say 4, and then we will have one condition: I is greater than 2, panic value high, and in a else condition value low. Okay, so what will happen is when I run this program, it should exit out of this if else condition with panic saying value high. Okay, if I try to have println after this saying I is 4 bigger than 2, this part will not be executed, considering panic will exit out of that condition immediately. So we will test this by typing in rust sample.rs. Okay, now here you see you get warning immediately at panic. You can see any code following this expression is unreachable, which is what we want, and the reason being panic will exit immediately after that. So even if you type in any program and have this condition panic, then next part will not be executed. So usually you use panic when you want to catch a particular error that happens. Okay, so let's take a look at how you can create new project with cargo in Rust. So what we will do is open command prompt, and let's make sure that we have Rust compiler. So rust c space -- version. Okay, so if we see version information, that means we have Rust. Next thing what we will do is we will type in cargo new space, then let's say hello world. This is the most generic project name, so let's go with that. Then it will take some time to create this package. Okay, and what we'll do now is cd into hello world directory. Okay, we can also import this into our Sublime Text or Visual Studio Code. So let's go there. Here you see we have this hello world folder. Select that, and here you see in source folder we already have main rs, where you can see it says hello world. We can change this to something else. Save this. Now what we can do is open command prompt, and here we can type in cargo build. Okay, it will build your package, and then it will notify you the build items. There will be also one more directory in your hello_world folder, which is target. Okay, which you can check here. Shows debug and other folders. So what we'll do is in command prompt type in cargo space run, and here you see it shows the updated message now. Okay, which we changed in main rs. So you get the idea how to create new project in Cargo and how to run that project.